who's globally known and well-respected, a good man. And as we're on the panel, and I had never, ever been involved in payments. I'm trying to bring it back to the topic. So we're doing a panel on Jersey's launch, and everybody's interested because, of course, we all think we're ahead of the times there, but we were far behind the times, and still are in many respects. And as I'm talking, and I helped with the legislation, I drafted it, I helped with the regulations, I got Dave Reebok to hire a then client of mine, friend, and somebody you all know well, Mario Galea, from Malta, and I have another cute story about that. And as we're walking off the stage, kind of bragging about how we're launching in 60 days, I said, Director Reebok, have you talked to the New Jersey Division of Banking and Insurance? Why would I talk to them? Have you given any thought about payments? Can you imagine? 60 days before the launch, they haven't even thought about payments. Needless to say, he ran to the corner on his mobile, started to talk to the Department of Banking and Insurance. He gets off the phone after an hour and says, Bill, our first question is, should we license payment providers? I said, I don't think that's really a question. I say, absolutely, you got money laundering. It's not to say that I was in any way smart. I just had a brain fart. It just came to me. But where we've come from then is so interesting. And now it's almost laughable for Europeans to hear that America was considering, not even licensing payment providers. And we know there have been a lot of dodgy payment providers. So one of the things that I've been thrilled about with launching iGaming in America, we have it in 7 states, plus Nevada has poker only online. And for sports betting, I mentioned yesterday, we have it in 36 states, plus the District of Columbia. And we have esports wagering in a couple of states, although that hasn't been very explosive, and lottery and brick and mortar casinos and yada yada. But what's really interesting to me is that I never thought I'd get into the vertical. My brother David, who's a lawyer and has represented MasterCard for 20 years, helped me, educate me on ACH and all that's behind the rails for payments. So today I represent over a dozen payment providers, from Fiserv to Trustly to PaySafe, on and on. But I gotta say this, and some of my clients will be a little disappointed, but I've added value. I'm representing a company, particularly for you two great ladies, I think you'll be somewhat impressed with. I met them at ICE last year at the River Cafe in London. The company is run by women. The board is predominantly women. They are into 2 important messages that I have embraced. One is diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you looked, and I'm going to speak about America, because remember I said earlier, if you're not learning, I like to learn every day. I learned something yesterday here on this floor. I did not know that outside of the UK, well, UK's not Europe, obviously, but you cannot lobby in Europe. I did not know that.
All right.
So I have to be careful because I think I've been lobbying a little bit in Europe, but I haven't got caught yet. Because I think it's different in America. Our Constitution gives me justification for what I do. We have a right to petition our government. We have a right to advocate and educate. It's a little different for me, so I'm trying to get through that.
Yeah, we call it corruption.
This company is NeoSurf. Andrea McKeechin is the CEO of it. Sue Page is about to be, formerly from London, now living in Westfield, New Jersey. She's going to become the US CEO. They're interested in pushing the message of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And equally important, I believe, is responsible gaming. Not a lot of payment providers are really talking that yet in America, and I'll keep it to that. But what's also very interesting to me is 13 years ago when I went to my first ICE, and people thought I was a bit of a clown because I was telling them, we're going to bring online gaming to America, we're going to bring sports betting, and they're like, no, you're not. I said, yeah, it's going to have a domino effect. We can't do it nationally, we're going to go state by state. 2 years later, I get invited, Viktoria, up on the stage. Here's the title of the panel. And some really giants in the industry were on the stage with me. I'm not saying I'm one of them. 4 white guys. I was a little younger then, but 4 old white guys. Not one woman, not one minority. And you know what the panel was? Diversity and inclusion in the gaming space.
Oh, wow.
And you know what's interesting to me? It's still predominantly white men, but it's changing as you're seeing more black and brown people, far more women. And so that's why I'm really thrilled and proud to be involved in a company like NeoSurf. And what it's also doing is it's permitting me to push some of the more institutional payment companies for them to realize, because if the CEO of a company is not prioritizing DEI or responsible gaming, it's not going to happen. It gets laughed at in the boardroom.
Yes, yes. And this is really the story of my life as a payment consultant, of clients coming up with weird ideas of not to be regulated, or they don't necessarily understand the risks behind moving money without the regulated environment. Dean?
I just want to follow up, because you said 2 words, advocate and educate.
Yes.
Since some years ago, I didn't want to push myself in the regulatory field. I'm from the science, from the research, from engineering. Who should care about it? Why should I care about it? But from time to time, when I went more deeper into the blockchain and involvement of myself, not only from the research side, but in the implementation. First I met a guy from Malta. He was involved in writing the first national strategy for the blockchain. And I met a little strange dictionary. It's actually a regulatory point. And since then, I had to take care about the regulatories. And mostly nowadays, I'm dealing with the fintechs, with the payment institutions on a technical base. But every second sentence make me a barrier with some regulatory things. Although the technology brings the advancement, you know, from time to time the technology comes up and make a hype through the users, institutions, everyone. But the regulatory stops all that things at one moment. That means we have to join together from different fields to collaborate and actually to advocate and to educate ourselves and to spread out the knowledge. So it was a misunderstanding about the cryptos, about the use of the crypto and the blockchain technology, either in no matter which field. I was started with a healthcare databases and involving a blockchain there. But there is no actually field where the blockchain can be implemented. The tokenization process, all those things are actually fit in any industry. That's fine, but obstacles appears.
I agree, and I think personally that the biggest problem with the taxation, with the regulation, with any kind of government enforcement is the regulatory arbitrage. So how comes that one country regulates and understands certain requirements in one way, and the other one understands it in a different way? And we came a long way from the times when everything was brick and mortar. You have a shop locally, you're serving local clients, you're paying local taxes. Now, when we are talking about online existence, serving multiple different clients from all over the world, even if we have a license, let's say in Estonia or in Lithuania, we want to onboard all those clients from the States, from Africa, from Southeast Asia, and somehow this regulation difference, taxation as well, but the regulation difference for the fintech industry, it's so diverse that we seems like we are just catching up with the regulation just to satisfy where our clients is actually coming from. So join in, guys, please. Just help me to understand where are we going in the future? How do we reduce the regulatory arbitrage issues? Now, of course, we've got MiCA, which is regulating the blockchain, but I personally don't see any kind of harmonization anytime soon between Thailand, the States, and Europe when it comes to how to move funds in a safer and more reliable, more regulated way. How do we make sure that there is no tax avoidance or any kind of taking advantage of the system from the wrong way?
Well, I could speak from my point of view. What I have seen is that, again, combined with e-gaming, crypto or payment institutions, well, it has been like a little bit overwhelming. Too many payment gateways, no regular, cryptocurrencies, like they have been VASPs, virtual asset service providers, they have been regulated. However, their policies, risk assessment, risk appetite is not in place, which means that they are actually not in compliance. Like, for example, these entities, what I have been helped to evaluate or audited, I have seen basically, for example, from 50 companies, only 2 or 4 are compliant. So it's huge number. And for example, what I also mentioned before, a number of licenses. Nowadays, according to my knowledge, we have only few hundred licenses in crypto. So it means that actually these companies actually do not understand themselves either how to do it. And I see developing, for example, obviously credit institutions are very knowledgeable how to do things. Payment institutions are also already very knowledgeable. But the lower we get, or the newbies, for example, the less they know. And this is exactly what Dean mentioned, that we should educate each other, understand how we actually operate our businesses, and so on, how to combine. So it is, it's like, like cooperation and this kind of education.
And what I see in Lithuania, because we are having a lot of Lithuanian licensed partners, even within under the same regulation, providing similar or even exact same services, there could be a huge difference between payment institution and payment institution, because one EMI is accepting me, one EMI is rejecting me. Why? What could be the reason that out of under the same regulation, the same approach, the same submission, the same format, yet there could be so much of a difference between acceptance and handling?
I would also, I would also comment what is happening also within the company. So again, coming back to the education, what Dean mentioned, actually within the companies is also education very needed. Because even within the companies, they don't even understand mostly what they should do, how to report each other, how to do samples, testings, or something like that. So it's the problem within like area or industry, but also within companies.
I couldn't agree more.
I would say it's about the maturity of the company, because just to serve, let's call high-risk industries like gambling, you're supposed to have certain, specifications, certain situations inside of the company. And this is really, it's about the money, it's about your capital. It's really how you can serve sophisticated business, just having like 50 employees or say no proper systems in place. Say again, let's say that we somewhere in the middle of the road, when it comes to maturity of the payment services providers industry. We may take a look at PSD1, PSD2. What was the purpose of electronic money institution, payments institutions? To provide something like the auxiliary services on the top of the core banking services. But what happened that we got the huge, I'll say the companies like Trustly, for instance, the Synchronic Pay. It's really like we're going to be, how to say, a lot of paradigmatic change in the future. And we got some rumors that PSD3 will really be about, finding solutions. I don't know whether they are not in the future. They're going to be like the two types of the financial institutions in Europe, like, so on the left hand, the payment service providers, on the right hand, the credit institutions. And they're going to be, say, about composition of their licenses, There will be just separation between the payment activities and credit activities. But there will be no any kind of, situations when even the big payment service providers will be treated in a different way. There are still problems, to join gross settlement systems like SEPA, like Target, and TIPS, because what is written, we have some, the right name of this directive is Payment Sending Directive.
Right.
It's literally written that only credit institutions can be the members, direct members of the gross settlement systems. But there will be also changes that will be another revolutionary impact. There will be no more restrictions, say, for the payment service providers,
Right.
To become direct members of the gross settlement systems. Even in future, there will be no such stuff like electronic money institution or payment institution. There will be just payment service provider.
And that's
Yeah, and even you see the MiCA, it's really about, it's not about creating something like very new, but it's really about, putting on the conventional financial services table the cryptocurrencies. We're going to see a lot of changes, but again, it's really about the maturity of the business. Don't forget it, to launch and to create a bank takes, 10, 15, 20 years. And in many cases, we've been talking about the payment service providers really just like 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
And we're going to see some very important paradigmatical actions in the future. I would say that not so easy to predict what will happen, what might happen, that landscape is going to be different. Say big payment service providers and the big credit institutions, but no more like younger brother, like little mouse sitting in the corner, and the big brother with shiny teeth and directors, flying with the private jets and riding Ferraris. Sorry, eating the shareholders' money. It's going to be a totally different situation.
Yeah, but is it not going to clear out all the differences? Because if the regulation is getting focused and everything has to be in a certain way, what is the unique selling point? How do I know that I will go to EMI green instead of EMI blue or EMI red? What is going to be the benefit whereby the salespeople can say that, yes, come to my payment institutions because I'm better, because of why? If everything is the same, maybe even price is the same, what is going to be the difference if everything will be put under very strict scrutiny? Everything is...
It's his answer, it's sort of their approach, how they're going to tackle their problems, how they're going to solve them.
So customer service.
Yeah, it's really, because the industry, for instance, the gaming gambling industry, really, it's about a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And the very little solutions,
Yeah.
And then go talk to them and just ask any necessary right questions to understand whether they really can provide you with necessary solution or not. Good idea is really that we still haven't any kind of situations, as I say, written on the wall, Even the big companies really can be not so big in the future, while we can see the rising stars, Everything it's about a new paradigm of the payment services. And still, there are a lot of opportunities even for not so big, not so well-known players, for instance, like Trustly, in the market. That's very interesting situation and interesting times.
Yes, I agree. Gentlemen.
Maybe I can add, just to follow up this discussion about what we can expect from regulatory and technology to intersect, especially when you're talking about the fintech and the payment providers, money institutions and everything. You mentioned already a little bit about the obstacles, which are obvious, really, from country to country, from region to region. There is no cross-border payment still available. The locally could be something, no matter if we are using cryptos or fiat monies. On both sides we have some challenges and obstacles. All the days happens. And regulatory cut it from time to time. You mentioned also MiCA. I like MiCA. It's European kind of law for the implementing cryptos, but I already met a few companies, means crypto tokens, which are fulfilled the MiCA regulatory, but approach the barrier when they apply to the SEC, to the Security Agency of the United States. Where the problem, actually, the core of the problem is, which I like to call an interoperability. We have a lot of technologies, different kind of technologies, especially in the Fintech, and it is kind of game, not just the iGame, it's a kind of game between the countries and the regulatory bodies. Besides that, we cannot fulfill the security of all of that. So many protocols, standards. We need to forward and to focus on the unification. How to unify a specific protocol or a standard that a fintech can deliver their services. If there is no unification, there will not be understanding to each other. The main problem, yes, I wanted to build a fintech, an EMI, for instance, or something. That's my opinion, my idea. I have the best software platform, better than any others. But you can see also it's the same. We can compete to each other on a technical basis with what features we have, which is better, which is faster, much more or less scalable, immutable, and so on, transparent, whatever. But what it means for the customers, for the gamers, they do not have to care about it. It's not the point that the gamers and the gamers, or anyone who uses a fintech service, to think about what it means. I have to choose as a user, as a normal gamer, I want to buy a weapon during the game, or to bet during the game, for instance. I don't have to care which payment provider is behind.
I completely agree with you because there was another event where the same issue has been brought up, and that was a very interesting comment whereby we compared the open banking styles in different areas. So there is an Interact, there is a SoFort, there is an open banking in the UK, and there is UPI in India. Everything works in the same way. However, these channels cannot really communicate with each other, and they are built on a different protocol, and the integration has to be taking place, the reporting is completely different. So totally understand your point and agree with that completely, that the harmonization shall be the one which is helping that. Crypto was made for that. Do something quicker, cheaper. Within Europe, we already achieved that with the SEPA Instant. It's free and it's immediate. So technically, we don't need crypto because we already achieved what we were aiming for. It's still for the international transactions, and that could be overcoming all those integration hurdles. So in your opinion, if we resolve the integration issues and every protocol is, let's say, speaking in the same language, and now we harmonize all the technology and the regulation, you believe that crypto will not have a means?
Not only that have no means, will have a mean, normally, because it's a digital currency.
Yes.
We are towards completely on a national levels on a digital currency. The cash money will disappear in some next period. It's obvious. Although I'm much more happy when I have some cash in my pocket, but normally I'm not paying anything with the cash anymore. We will approach this stage in the next 2 to 3 years, obviously, that the digital currency will be. It's not important if it is a crypto or just a digital euro, digital Swiss francs, digital dollar, whatever, any kind. They have just to communicate. It's much more important that the people understand, yes, I have to use a digital currency. It's more easier, faster, convenient, whatever. I don't have to care where my money is. I have just one device or go online and finish the payment, whatever.
Bill, what's the situation in the US for this digital currency?
Yeah, this is interesting. First of all, I think very odd that we, not only in America, but throughout the world, we're regulating different industries. But yet, it's not very obvious what the benefits are, because if I'm in the black market, I get away without taxes, licensing fees, compliance fees, and yet if I am legitimate, regulated, and licensed, I have to deal with continuous battles and continuous regulatory barriers. So a couple of points. First of all, organizations like IMGL, IAGA, IGER are very important institutions that not a lot of American regulators go to anymore because of COVID. They're just starting to come back. But what we have to keep in mind, I don't know how it works here. I know how it works in Australia and America and New Zealand for the most part. If you have an organization that is an educational foundation, you can have regulators from the US and Oz come in. But if you're just a regular conference organization, you're commercial, you cannot have that. So regulators can accept, because oftentimes you see some regulators in the US go to every conference. I'm not sure what they're doing back home because they're at every conference. So what the heck are they doing? But it's good to learn. What's happening in America, there was legislation introduced about 4 or 5 years ago. I do a lot of work at airports in America and train stations, many of whom would love to be able to have tablets there where people can badge. Not every state allows that right now. But we're now doing what I call reverse culturalization. We're now requiring in America, multiple states have done this, legislation is passed to require cash. And that is because some of the less fortunate in America don't have digital wallets. And are challenged enough. Remember when Obama was president, he was giving out cell phones because people couldn't afford them. So, you know, now when you go to an airport, many airports would only allow for digital payments. Now you're required to have cash, credit cards, you know, so on and so forth. That's a little back in time. The other thing that I think is weird is the importance of liquidity, particularly with poker. Why, in America, did 3 states 10 years ago, because I did the deal, do an interstate compact on poker? New Jersey, Delaware, tiny state, and Nevada. We did it. It's been on the books for 10 years. Nobody's used it. Can you imagine if we had poker liquidity across the globe? But yet, we don't have payments that can go across the globe. I mean, American Express is not really accepted for the most part, some places in Europe, and I get that. But what I think is most important, I'm trying to wrap on this, about the whole fintech industry is it's extraordinarily competitive. And that is important because it helps the operators in the gaming industry, because if we had other verticals that, like, for example, geolocation, not very competitive. Data centers. I mean, Continent 8 is, in essence, not only the brand leader, but in most parts a monopoly, although Amazon and Internet Vikings are starting to get into the market. I think one of the most recent challenges on fintech that I was involved in was as we moved in certain states from sports betting to online casino, I was petitioning regulatory regimes in America to say, can we have a single wallet? Because they were required, I'm a customer, I go on to PokerStars, FanDuel, whatever, I register, I deposit, then if I wanted to go over to their sports book, I'd open up a new account.
New KYC.
It's just burdensome. The final point, Victoria, is 2-factor authentication is not required, which is bizarre. So I'm now advocating for that. And there's a new company, I'm not here to do commercials here, There's a new company out of the UK. Most two-factor authentications are between 50 and 63 seconds. Now, for me, it's okay. But for these young folks here, that's like a year. They're leaving the site. There's a new company in that can do two-factor authentication in less than 3 seconds.
Oh, wow.
2 point whatever second. I don't even know there was points in seconds, but so America's still behind the times, and what I find absurd, nobody has embraced crypto in the gaming industry in America. And we still, I mean, look, 8 years ago, blockchain was the word. Then it was crypto. And then we had SAM and SVP, bank, collapse. So I don't think we're anywhere close to having an embracing of crypto the way it should be, because it does have value. And now it's the hot topic of the day is AI.
Yeah.
It'll be something else tomorrow.
Yeah, it's being pushed aside. That's true, because you guys in America, you don't even have the 3D authentication for the mobile payments, right? So
Right.
so that's also, which is mandatory in Europe now. Yeah. Zoltan, how many minutes do we have left?
15.
Oh, perfect. So we can dive deep in further subject. I would like to encourage the audience that if you have any kind of question to our panelists, please do. No one? Yes, please.
Okay, so mine is more generic from what you've all discussed, but from what I gather, we're saying that there is no organized conversation between the payment companies and the regulatory authorities per jurisdiction. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but the recording.
We can.
Oh, right.
Come on, Maria.
So from what I gather, there has been no organized conversation between the payment companies and the regulatory authorities per jurisdiction or in the European Parliament. So there is nothing like that in order to have a dialogue with the companies, so you can establish what Victoria said, just a map so they can be more competitive and they know what's
I think
allowed.
so. This is exactly what you're working at, right?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it is not a true statement. We do enjoy a lot of, say, contacts, especially when it comes to, say, to pan-European institutions. Regulatory stuff, it's quite complex, you know. It really depends on, say, country. Say, we have the biggest number of, say, payment service providers license, 128, you know. I think next is like the Netherlands or Sweden with the 65 stuff like this. And you know, you're going to see totally different situation, say, behind the curtain when it comes to the say problems, regulatory problems. You know, I think it's really it's quite a new thing. You know, even 20 to 15 years, 10 years ago. The banking was really about all that is brick and mortar, you know, enjoying big bonuses and being not so keen on, you know, providing the reliable services, you know. That's quite a revolutionary situation. It's not still fully comprehended, you know. And don't forget that regulators are also humans, you know, not robots, you know, not artificial intellect, you know, and it's not so easy for them to understand and comprehend properly. But it's good that we live here in Europe and we enjoy the benefits of European Union. We have unification. We have quite sophisticated processes of putting our problems on the table, discussing it, and then put a certain, say, legal acts. That's really good. We really cannot overcome, but just, again, the situation is totally new, you know. It's so decentralized, independent, you know, situations. Even when it comes talking about the future of the banking system, say they're opening quietly doors of the gross settlement systems. What does it mean? That you really can allow the small or the mid-sized payment service providers, you know, to survive, you know. There will be no need for the big giants. I hope that even this, what we call the conventional correspondent banking system will collapse. And we're going to see a lot of, say, new situations, changes. You know, it's not easy to predict, you know. It's a never-ending story. It's a really very vibrant and vivid, how to say, situation. And we're going to see, you know. We're going to bring all the very big events. That's why I would like to be, the wizard, or they say the smart one, and start, predicting, what could be the future. There are going to be a lot of ways how to solve that. For sure, there will be different situation in 20, 50 years. Talking about the payments, will be totally different. Even now we see, say Europe enjoy, for instance, say the instant payments. That's not the case in the United States. It's real life. It takes to send money, say from SEB to the Swedish or the Lithuanian bank, say to Deutsche Bank, seconds, 2-3 seconds. When it's really something happens and it takes 15 seconds, you really become nervous. That wasn't the case like 10 years ago. I see it's some kind of the mix of technology, the mix of, say, the new legislation will, say, put on the table a lot of situations we still kind of comprehend and we still kind of predict,
I would like to also follow up a little bit the situation in Estonia. Actually, the situation is improving because before, as regulators were, more behind from the issues and so on. So nowadays we do have, for example, Fintech community, where are different institutions, gaming, payment institutions, other financial institutions, and they're discussing regularly issues, what's on the table. There we have also additionally from European actually level that regulatory are coming into Estonia, for example, and there are also roundtables within blockchain industry. So it's also, I see improvement definitely in Estonia.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I wanted to expand the question to the US, if possible.
Yeah, sure. Did you have another? Yeah, same question, right?
Yes, for the US, and especially, you mentioned the cash issue, and there's also checks are very common in the US.
Yes.
Yes.
So, what's the story there, and are you lobbying for the regulatory process for Fintech, or is it like, is there some sort of organized action from the coalitions like the American Gaming Association and the Entain Foundation and all that?
No, there isn't. Americans still write checks predominantly. It's changing because the younger generation, there was a bank called Commerce Bank that started in New Jersey and was bought by TD Bank out of Canada. That bank's vertical was retail. They opened thousands of branches in the Northeast and Florida, thousands. It's not the vertical anymore. It's not the McDonald's case of buying a property and putting a restaurant on it so you have land, right? That's not the vertical anymore. 15 years ago, 2008, just as the bank collapse was happening in America, wouldn't you know, I was invited to start a bank. And we did. I was the only Democrat. It was 9 Republicans, they needed a Democrat, right? So they reached out to me. I raised quite a bit of money back then in America to start a bank. You know how much you needed? Cheap, $14, $15 million. That's all you need. Today to start a bank, if you don't have 80 million minimum, you can't start a bank, so no banks are really being started. Between 2008 and 2015, only 3 banks started up. We were one of them. The bank is called Freedom Bank. I'm not here to sell the bank. I'm here to tell a story. I'm on the board, and because of the amount of money I raised, and I knew nothing, Maria, about banking. Zero. Other than I'd go deposit my money, and I'd withdraw, and I'd write checks to pay my bills and pay my mortgage. I know a lot about banking now. I approached the bank. Before I approached them on gaming, I approached them on marijuana, medical and recreational, which I was lobbying for many years. I got bored of it. By the way, don't invest in marijuana in America. The black market is far cheaper because of the regulatory regime that's been put in place. Everybody was big on it. It's now kind of passé. The Amsterdam of America is now gone. It's kind of routine. So I approached the bank. Guys, I have massive numbers of clients in New York and New Jersey that would like to do cannabis. Open up a bank account. I'm on the board. For them to say no to me has got to be a challenge. No, Bill, we don't want to get involved. Too risky. I said, yeah, but it's legal. Well, true, for their point, federally, it's still a class 1 drug, and it's kind of odd. So then I approached them when we opened up iGaming in New Jersey for various clients, all of whom you know, from here. They would not open up a bank account for gaming. It's too risky. Now there's a land grab. Every bank wants to open up a gaming account because of the cash in and out. But I still have challenges today, Maria, talking more about the banking process. And I'll give you an example, and I'm permitted to do this. So I represent both Hard Rock International and Gaming Innovation Group out of Malta, GIG. Love that client. Robin Reed brought me in when we started it. Why did I tell you the story? Hard Rock would not pay GIG because GIG, this is bizarre. It's like, are we in the 21st century? They wouldn't pay GIG because GIG didn't have a US bank account.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So then I started to lobby to get, my bank wouldn't do it, TD Bank wouldn't do it. We're not gonna open up a bank account for a Malta company. They're on the blacklist.
Yeah.
They're no longer there. But they just, yeah, they're on the blacklist, but you help legitimize them by opening up a bank account.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the stupidity, and that's why regulatory roundtables with not just the operators, but with affiliates, with the fintech industry is so critical, but it doesn't happen often enough. And I think, you know, Europe will be a leader, as it has been in the gaming industry, in fintech. I believe that. And America tends to be often arrogant and know-it-all. And, you know, you see where we are. Only 6 states plus Nevada, poker only, have iGaming? Why is that? What's the...
Yeah, and I remember in Malta when the banks restricted opening or holding accounts for anything which has to do anything with iGaming, and there was a panic and the guy.
I remember that too, because my former company told me that they had difficulties and there were numerous audits and controls and all that. It was crazy.
Yes, exactly. And the banks needed to be forced by the government that no, you have to take it. And when you're forced, obviously, you have to do it. Simply because if I have a bank or any kind of financial institution, I've got a license, I'm not going to risk it for you. It's already making money. Don't rock the boat, right? I'm not going to risk everything for one extra client that I don't really know, I don't trust you, I don't know you. Why would I? Unless they are actually forced into that. Dean, you've got some thoughts for this question as well for Maria, right?
Probably yes. We heard about Europe and the US, but about other regions.
Yes.
We're always talking about the connection between Europe and the US, but most of the consumers actually live in other countries. What we're gonna do? Do we have? We forgot one point of view. We're talking about the regulatories, about the technology. Where is the political will?
Yes.
We misunderstood that without political positive attendance in the regulatory, there is no agreement.
That's true, yes.
We have to involve all the regions. We're talking about the cross-border.
Yeah.
We're talking about the cross-border inside the Europe.
Exactly.
Why we need a cross-border inside the Europe if you are already in the Schengen or whatever, and the free trading market?
And the extra layer is the religion on top of that as well, because iGaming, gambling is not really liked in certain areas because of the religious purposes. So that's why. Right. Thank you so much. I think we had an amazing panel and woke you up a little. I hope we did. So please find us at the coffee area, hit us with new questions. We are very, very happy to take this conversation further. Thank you very much for everyone. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you, Vytautas. Yes, please.
Oh, sure.
And Viktoria, thank you for the lead.
Yes.
Yeah,
the right
Thank you.
if you have some money to launder, you can also, of course.
Answer the question, right?
We're going to take a photo. But it's about the limit of quantity. So.
Okay.
Yes, there's a limited quantity.
Do I make a photo with your phone as well?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
All right, and then I'll share with everybody, Victoria.
Okay.
Come on, look up.
Okay.